The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
You mentioned the injury, LJ. I think it's a great segue into what's going to be our kind of, I guess we're going to make this a weekly segment every Wednesday, injury update. You know, it's hard to keep track of all the injuries that happen in the MLB, but that's what we're here to do, break down them in a concise manner, tell you the ones that really matter. And LJ, where do we want to start here? We certainly had quite a few notable names either hit the IL or potentially be heading to the IL.
Well, I guess I'd like to start it with a question here. This probably feels like the easiest way to jump around these injuries. Brandon, among major names to go out on the IL this week, Brandon Woodruff, Zach Eflin, Joey Gallo, Adam Duval. Which do you think hurts the most among these injuries?
Yeah, obviously Adam Duval has had the best start out of all those players, and the Red Sox could really use anyone on that team right now that is producing. So he's certainly up there in contention. Brandon Woodruff, it does scare me a little bit. I know they're just saying right shoulder inflammation, but with pitchers, shoulder and elbow is the two things that you really want to avoid. And you know, it is just inflammation. It doesn't look like there's a strain or anything there, but certainly Milwaukee not having him for at least 2 weeks will be hurtful. But I'd probably have to side with Adam Duval just because of how good he's been playing so far this year. And, you know, it sucks for Red Sox fans because they were really hoping to get a full year out of that guy who's honestly a really proven and even underrated hitter at times. I think that what he did on the Braves was certainly overlooked by many.
Certainly, I don't think it's an understatement to say that this is their second best offensive piece at this point in a lineup that is devoid of offense. Like, there is really only two guys out there that you're fully trusting to put the bat on the ball and make something good happen. Those were Rafael Devers and Adam Duval to start the year. You going down to one is a massive killer to what this team can do and tries to do. And so losing him for extended periods of time is going to be a major issue. The bigger issue for them too is depth, because while they have, you know, some outfield depth, it's not certainly quality, and they're not using it right now. Their decision for the year for this injury was to bring up Bobby Dahlbeck for the time being to serve as his replacement among position players, to give other guys rest because they're facing a bunch of left-handers. Here's the thing we talked about in the Big Three radio show last night. Doesn't really matter seeing Bobby Dahlbeck honestly sucks at hitting righties and lefties equally. Like, not equally, actually. He's worse against the righties, but he's not that much of a difference maker against the lefties in the first place. So why are you even bothering to worry about, you know, giving some of these guys rest and off days so you can use this weapon? Meanwhile, you've got Rob Refsnyder in center field. He probably still is the top option anyway, but I'd feel a lot better about keeping the most well-rounded lineup out there if they'd brought up Jarren Duran instead. I'm actually going to go a different spot here. I'm going to go with Zach Eflin.
Okay.
That's the 15-day IL here, and the primary justification on this is a guy that the Rays spent good money, especially for the Rays. They spent Rays great money, actually, I'll go ahead and say, on Zach Eflin, and so far delivered 11 innings through 2 starts, a 3.27 ERA. That's 4 over 11 innings with 12 strikeouts. Those are easily the best numbers of his career. And that's what this Tampa team does, is they will take a guy, immediately make a couple tweaks, and put together a really good season, and then it'll develop into a great season. We're realistically expecting this to be more like Jeffrey Springs to an extent, and again, he could fall off, and we could be just completely, this analogy goes to nothing.
I hope so. I don't know where they get these guys from, LJ. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous at this.
But at the end of the day, he started looking really good last year and now is taking a huge leap into 23. That's what you're hoping for out of Zach Eflin when you pay him this money. And by paying him this money, you clearly think that he is going to be able to give you something more than most other players. Like most players that you could have got they'd normally get for $5 million, they went out and grabbed this guy for over 10. So they're expecting something particularly special out of Zach Eflin now. And by limiting the time he is going to be out there this year, it's going to delay the time till that breakout really begins. And that's what's unfortunate for Rays fans, because you're ready to see that.
Well, and let's not forget, Zach Eflin was a guy who the Phillies lost so much confidence in him as a starter that he got moved to the bullpen at a point last year. They had him coming out of the bullpen in the playoffs. They thought he was much more comfortable doing that. And the Rays were kind of like, no, like you're a starter. You've started your whole career essentially in the majors. He's made over almost 120 starts in the majors. You're going to be a starter for us. And while he does go down, they do end up calling up one of their top prospects who we're going to talk about in a little bit. But I think that they should be a little worried about this, just because he had been pitching so well. And you're right, they'd make mediocre guys turn into good players, and then good into great, and great into elite. It's just they just have an upper hand on the player development system, it seems, over there in Tampa.
Yeah, and I'm going to give, as we're running out of time here for this segment, I'm going to give one more name in here, and it's not going to be Brandon Woodruff, as Brandon already expressed. There's definitely cause for concern with a Milwaukee team that really needs to decide what they're doing with a lot of things this year, and it really feels like a win or bust situation for the Brewers right now. My guy is actually going to be Matt Manning.
Okay.
Detroit Tigers. The last guy we're going to talk about here fractures the 5th metatarsal in his right foot on a comebacker from Alejandro Kirk. First off, incredibly painful situation. But second, I just feel for these Tigers fans, because here you were really hoping you're going to get off into this new era of Tigers baseball here, bringing up Spencer Torkelson, who has had, I will say, a much improved start to the 2023 campaign compared to his 2022. But at the end of the day, he was part of a bigger movement here, and that movement mostly relied around starting pitching. This young core that was supposed to be, developed and guided by Eduardo Rodriguez, of Spencer Turnbull, Matt Manning, Casey Mize, and Tariq Skubal, all guys who have graded and shown flashes of all-star potential in their own rights. Now they have lost every single one of them for significant stints of time. You've got Turnbull as the first one to go, the guy who really people weren't expecting to be in that conversation until a hot start in 2021, ends up going down with Tommy John. Casey Mize ends up going down with Tommy John after a great start to the season last year. Tariq Skubal, flexor tendon surgery. He's going to be out for a while longer more. And now you have this with Matt Manning. It's just, they're never going to get going in this new era because they keep having these, setback after setback after setback.